So, did you really just want to watch Star Trek: Strange New Worlds because it says Star Trek, or were you actually what attracted you to it?
Actually, you know what? What attracted to me is the way it looked different and separate away from the dark and broodiness that has become Star Trek. So the lighter color
Ooh,
palette is it's different. It's appealing. It's more attractive, and because it's based in around Kirk's era, isn't it? Around about that. So yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
just
10 years before TOS, I think.
and because I knew tonally the tone of the show would be episodic and it'd be sort of based in sort of like every episode would be its own sort of self-contained episode. You could jump into any part of the season fine. You know, you could just watch episode five, say, and start from there if you so chose, or start any episode and get a feel for the show. So
Yeah, that's true. It is my favorite nutrek TV series, after all.
yeah, I like the fact that every episode feels different. I like the fact that they deal with serious stuff, and also there are some fun episodes within the season as well.
I
So
I like the fact that the more ignorant you are, and I mean when I mean you and me, the more ignorant we are about Star Trek, New Trek, the more enjoyable it is.
yeah, yeah,
That's so layered with
yeah.
with double meaning. But okay, I just wanted to see what it was about, really. The fact that they said it was going to be episodic, and I thought, okay, let's check it out. Let's see what happens. I do
Yeah,
know that a lot of people don't like it because it's connected to Discovery, especially the first episode. But then after that, it is its own thing, which is
yeah.
which I can see the potential of. But I have larger issues with the show.
Sorry, that was my thing as well. Like it did the only dark sort of corner of this whole season is like the fact that it is linked a little bit to Discovery. Hopefully, season two and then moving forward, it sort of steps away from that more and more as we go on.
Yeah,
So
I think it will.
yeah,
Yeah, it has to because Discovery's gone.
yeah, yay!
Did you have a standout episode?
I liked the episode where is it the Doctor character? He lives in his kid's fairy tale sort of reimagining of the ship. That was a only because it was different. I didn't like fully. It's not my favorite episode. But I did feel like it's a standout episode, as if like it was one of those fun episodes that I don't know harkens back to similar sort of episodes that were in the original series and I think maybe even Star Trek Next Generation. I'm sure they've had an episode similar where reality is sort of like bent to a certain degree. Even if they like where they've met Q or something's happened on the holodeck and they've sort of merged into sort of the realms of reality and the holodeck sort of thing. I remember an episode of was it Next Generation where they was it merged into World War II era France occupied France or something like that. I can't remember exactly.
They
I
always
know
do
they've
that.
played around with that era. Yeah, they always play around with that era.
Good.
So yeah,
You can't fail with an episode where you get to beat on Nazis.
yeah, it's a guarantee win. So, but
Okay.
I like that because it took all the characters and so it made them change and sort of be a different character within their own characters that you know of the show. So
Yeah.
like someone like a plank of wood, like the is it the security officer or something? The
Yeah.
girl, she's
Lal.
got a name.
Lal
Like
or Noonien Singh, whatever.
she's probably like my least favorite character on the show, but it made her be a different in that episode. So it was
But
like, okay, she's
how can you say that when she's got two tragic backstories, Adam? She hasn't got one. She's got
like,
two. She should be more
yeah.
appealing to the audiences.
No, no,
Yeah, I fucking hate her as well.
yeah,
The way she speaks and the way she speaks in general, and then just the way she talks back to Spock and stuff. It's
yeah.
just
She
really
talks back
weird.
to every character on the ship, even though
Yeah.
if they're a higher rank or regardless of anything like that, it's like
Right.
you can't speak to people like that. You're in like basically a military type organization, and you're
Yeah.
like having to go at people. can't be doing that. Like, respect rank, you idiot.
Yeah, she plays a character called La'an Noonien Singh. Yeah, I was right.
Yeah,
La'an. What I don't like about
yeah.
that, this is one of the things that piss people off about this TV show, is that actually I'll ask you, do you know what they're referencing when they say Noonien Singh?
I've heard the term. I can't remember. Was it mentioned in Deep Space Nine and stuff like that in
No.
past Star Trek? You know?
Well,
No,
they did
never.
mention it in one episode, but it's a Dr. Bashir episode where they find out he's genetically engineered.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I remember that episode.
Right, and they mentioned Noonien Singh there. But
Yeah.
if that's your strongest callback, then I have to educate you, son.
Yeah. I don't really fully
Right.
know,
Have you ever watched Star Trek 2? It's a little known film. Came after the first one, the motion picture.
but
It's called The Wrath of Khan.
I remember it, but I haven't watched it for years.
Okay, but you remember who the antagonist is?
Yeah. Yeah. He's genetically modified. Can't like
Yes.
he has
So
something. Yeah. It's DNA. Yeah.
yeah, he's like a product of like the 1990s where they genetically engineered people, and he became like the ruler of Asia for a while, and then he exiled himself on the Botany Bay starship with some other genetically engineered enhanced humans. Basically, somehow, Laan Noonien Singh is like the great great granddaughter of Noonien Singh, of Khan.
All right.
And the
Okay.
thing is, nobody knows this in TOS. When they discover Khan, they're like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" And they have to search the records. Even Spock is like, "I don't know. I've got amnesia. I didn't know a Noonien Singh before, ever since Strange New Worlds." So this is one of the things that where it just
Yeah.
breaks canon massively. And I'm happy to resign the TV show as like an alternate history, an alternate universe to TOS and the
Yeah. Yeah.
rest of the timeline, because just huge gaping holes like that just don't make any sense unless you're going to say at some point that Spock gets his mind wiped again.
Yeah. Well, they have to give these characters like these stupid backstories, but they also have to have them associated with classic characters,
Right.
so it makes them seem more important than what they actually are.
In a sense, yeah. So but the thing is, when she go back onto like the way she speaks to other characters, Spock and Pike are the draw. That's the reason why we're watching. And of course, I guess to an
Mm,
extent, number one, because some fans might be interested to see what would Rebecca, what's her name? Rebecca Ramajin? Sounds Romulan anyway. The woman
okay.
who did, you know, the blue makeup in X-Men. She's number one anyway on the TV show. But that
Yeah.
character was in one episode in TOS. So people want to see her twist on it. But you've got three, so you've
Okay.
got three legacy characters, and my point is, they are the draw. They're the ones that you're watching the TV show for. So with this
Yeah.
Laan Noonien Singh, when she's disrespecting a legacy character, it's like, oh, okay, that touches a nerve. Never mind the fact that you're also doing that under a quasi-military organization, which is what you were saying. It's just really weird
Yeah.
because he's the one who should be respected on two fronts: one, commanding officer; two, legacy character that you know
Yeah.
isn't going to die. Whereas Noonien Singh could die next season because we never see her again anyway, do we?
No. No. Like when you mention as well, like characters who are like basically got plot armor and they can't die. I
Yeah,
feel like outside of that, you've got like Pike who knows his future or whatever in
right.
like, the next 10 years. I'm there thinking, knowing this as watching as a normal audience member, I'm like, wouldn't that character then be like, well, whatever scenario I'm in now, I already know my fate 10 years from now. So I don't really care about the stakes. That's what I felt like when I watched it. I thought Pike's gonna be like, well, I'm pretty much invincible. I know my fate could happen in 10 years. So any situation scenario, for me, I'd be like, well, I'm not gonna die. I can do anything. I'm not gonna die.
Right.
So it creates this little bit of, I don't know,
I know what you're
anomaly
saying
in
because
the thing. Yeah.
because because someone else mentioned this. I think the Penske File podcast mentioned this, where you basically have a character who knows he's not going to die for 10 years, so he could express himself as a kind of captain that could be a little bit cavalier, a little bit reckless
Mm,
in what he does because he's so sure of himself. And the show
yeah.
doesn't really do that. You just have him brooding and being doubtful of what he can do, but he's in essence immortal for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
But at the same time, uh, the thing that creates the accident and fucks him up for life, so he has to live on this planet with the Thelosians in TOS is it's just a training day. So why don't you just postpone the training day, or why don't you just do the system checks for those particular reactors that are going to go AWOL or whatever? And it's just a bunch of kids anyway. I mean, the stakes don't seem to be that much of a big deal. If it was a case of, oh, we're on a ship trapped, we don't, and the future, him getting the vision doesn't explain how he gets on this ship. He doesn't know what ship it is, and he's trapped near the Romulan neutral zone or something, and he gets fucked up. But if he doesn't do something while on that ship, then it changes history, whatever. Then I could understand because the stakes are actually meaningful. But this is just 5 or 6 kids on a training exercise. So you just postpone it if he knows. It sort of contradicts itself. And I'm wondering, part of me wonders if they're going to finish this series altogether with Pike's supposed death. And if they're gonna mull on it and say, oh, he might die, and so be disabled for the rest of his life, and then he's a joke in a Futurama episode. Do the foot taps. Beep, 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 beep. I believe that they won't do it. And if they don't do it, then they're kind of confirming that this is an alt universe. Because what's the point of mulling over this for it then to happen? It's like as though the show is saying, we can't rewrite history. We can't rewrite destiny. Yeah. But the show is also trying to say, well, what if we did, but we won't? But what if we did, but we won't?
Well, they've already
the twist should be that they should.
They already hinted that it could be changed in some way, or it doesn't have to be dead on. I think one of his friends that he was talking to, she was like, "Oh, it's not a definite, it's not a certainty. Like you don't have to be resigned to that fate. It's already sort of out there. It's probably going to change anyway. The show's already told you this."
Yeah, it's just weird, and I'm kind of interested to see what they're going to do. That's part of the draw for me to see what. Will he, won't he? And I'm leaning towards they won't, because it's predictable, and it's an unsatisfying conclusion to the character in a way.
Yeah, it's like when they were being chased by that ship, or it was his ship and Kirk's ship chasing after that ship, or whatever. And Kirk went to him like, "Oh, you flinched, you didn't go for it, or whatever." And I was thinking, if he did, then it's like, why? You know that. Like you say, be more cavalier, be a bit more daring. Who cares? Like, your fate.
Speaking of Kirk, before we get onto favorite episodes, it's like as though they need to get the references in so that we're interested. And I'm actually okay with Strange New Worlds not introducing Kirk this early at all. I don't really want him in the show, especially now that we've seen the kind of Kirk that they're going to give us, who looks like a total wetbag, who's nothing like the other the other Kirk that we've got through William Shatner. Even though J.J. Abrams' Kirk is sort of Kirk, we accepted him. Yeah, this is the guy. And this guy isn't anything like that at all. I don't understand it. He just looks like some beta male. He's not the alpha that we grew up around. It's so weird. Yeah. But anyway, he shouldn't be in the show.
I didn't mind his introduction at the start. I thought he's got a look, and I did feel like he did have that feel a little bit. But I feel like in the next season, they may be doubling down on making him a bit of a secondary sort of character, or a bit of a joke within the show itself, which is a bit of an odd thing to do for such a big character.
Yes, I do think that, but it also competes with Pike. This is supposed to be the Pike show, and I don't think we deserve both. I don't. Yeah. So
there's no need for it. There's no need for it.
Right, and it goes back to me. It feels of small universe syndrome again, which these shows just don't seem to don't want to escape from. And when we get into Lower Decks, that's even more of what I'm talking about. I like the fact that Kirk's brother is on the Enterprise, because I think that's canonically true. So you should have just kept with that character and explored him, because he's a blank slate for all intents and purposes. Yeah. And that mustache, god damn, that gives me 70s porno vibes. It's so good. He tells Pike to get a mustache as well at one point.
Yeah, they do.
So, okay, Just in case people think we're super spiteful against the show and they're tuning out, what is your favorite episode? Because I actually have a favorite episode. There's one episode that I like.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's yours?
Okay.
What stood out for you? Because it's fresher in your mind. And while you speak, it gives me a chance to remember more.
You say this, but I'm going to have to like refresh myself on which episode was my favorite because
Okay,
again,
let me run through quickly then. The
yeah,
first one is they have to go down to a planet, and the planet is sort of they're in disguise, and they have to get Spock off the planet because his disguise is wearing off, and the two sides
okay,
are going to fight. Then you got Children of the Comet, where there's a ship protecting the comet.
yes, the music stuff, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, Ghosts
reactive
of
music.
Illyria, where they're trapped. Pike and Spock are trapped on a planet, and the ghosts,
Yeah,
the genetically engineered ones, try and get them. Memento Mori is when the Gorn are attacking them.
yeah, they're gone. Yeah,
Yeah, Spock Amok. That's where they have the
yeah.
music.
I was waiting for that music. Yeah, I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it.
And this episode 6 is Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach. It's about the little boy that they plug into the computer, and they're like, "Oh no!"
Oh yeah, yeah,
The Serene Squall, where that transgender pirate takes over because she's banging Cyborg.
yeah.
Right, Cyborg. Do you know who Cyborg is?
No.
Okay, Cyborg is Spock's half brother from Star Trek Five.
Oh, okay,
Which at the
okay.
time, by the way, I was like, oh fuck this show. Just so many references to other things. But then I thought,
Mm,
okay, there's a chance to explore it maybe. And they didn't really show you. We're just saying that he's in the universe.
okay.
Okay. Well, so I'm 50-50 with that, but again, because of the small world syndrome. The Elysian Kingdom is when they're stuck in the nebula and they pretend to be characters of a book. All
Yeah,
Those Who
yeah,
Wander, that's the episode where it's the Gorn episode where the Andorian dies, the Andorian engineer.
yeah,
Probably the
yeah,
Hemmer, probably the best character, by the way, on the show. And then the last one is The Quality of Mercy, which is like an alternate universe of probably one of the best TOS episodes. The what's it called? Shit, you see, I'm not good with TOS, but it upset a lot of fans.
Oh, the last one.
Yeah, The Quality of Mercy, and then I think it's The Errand of Mercy. Shit, people are probably just,
Okay.
you're an idiot. Why don't you know your Star Trek?
You know what? Now you've refreshed my memory. I think
Okay, you
I
talk and
particularly
I'll
like the
Google.
one. I like the one where they did go to that other planet. He's recognized a woman that he's come across before that civilization, and in the end, basically, the kid gets sacrificed so the rest of their society can continue on or whatever. It's a great sacrifice and a great honor. And he realizing this is like, what the hell is going on here? And to me, I was there thinking they were gonna like obviously get out of it and the kid was gonna survive and all happy ending sort of thing. But they actually just killed the kid. And I was like, wow, that's dark. And I thought, wow, good. That's not it's good though that they went that direction. It was like, wow, there's not many shows that will sort of like kill kids on screen. So I was just like, Jesus, they actually went there and they did it. So that's pretty cool. Dark and like sort of in a twisted sort of way,
Yeah,
but it's like the reality of like probably a lot of cultures and stuff from the past, even like today, like sort of do that sort of thing, sort of
yeah.
have a warped sense of like their reality of like, it's fine to do this. You kill
Well,
people anyway in your own ways. So
it
carry on.
it's a sort of, I would say it's a poor metaphor, but it's a metaphor for how we treat children even today, where you've got kids picking out precious metals from scrapyards
That's what I mean,
and
yeah.
just toiling
Yeah.
away, and we don't care about them.
And I like the acting of Pike's character and then those two interacting and her telling him, yeah, that's what it is. And him knowing this is she's fully aware of the situation and the horror and the look on his face as this person that he's been like romantically involved with and considered a friend could be, responsible
Yes.
sort of act. And he's just like, and he doesn't even, the argument just ends and he just beams himself away because he knows it's like, there's no argument here to be had. What can I say?
Yeah.
So he just beams off, and then it's just like, wow. what a dark episode in the end. And the guy, the father or whatever, or the guy responsible for the kid was actually trying to help him and get him out of that. He wasn't the bad guy. So there's that twist in the end there. It was
Yeah,
like the guy was just trying to help the kid get out of it.
I think I think if you don't think enough about the episode, then it works.
Mm,
But when you start looking at the civilization, which is spacefaring, why did they need to stay on the planet? Why did they need to plug children into it to keep the paradise? You could just evacuate the
yeah,
planet.
yeah.
So
It's
part
just
of
that
it,
religious side of their civilization, isn't it? I guess it's just that religion just rules all in some
right?
cultures and
If
stuff, and that's the
if
problem.
if you
Can't move away
somehow
from that.
if you somehow limited the planet and you don't give the aliens warp drive or something, and it's still a
Mm,
shuttle, so a spaceship that can go say like half impulse to the moon and back to Earth
yeah,
in relative distances. I mean, and they've just that's
yeah,
all they've managed to do. But somehow they, uh, let's say somebody already broke the Prime Directive, so people know about them. Then you can make
yeah,
an argument because you cannot offload all those people off that planet until they build enough starships or something. So the Federation could be helping them, but they've got to
yeah.
keep plugging children into the system to keep it stable, right? Then that would be an
Mhm.
interesting moral dilemma. We've got to keep them. It makes a stronger case for saying we've got to keep the society running, and you've got to make these sacrifices in order to allow the rest of us to get off the planet.
Yeah.
That I think that would be thematically more of a solid approach. Okay, so that one stuck
Mhm.
out for you. The episode that we're talking about, which is the quality of mercy, is doing a riff of from TOS. Is called the Balance of Terror, which
Okay.
has the guy. Basically, the actor is called Mark Leonard, who went on to play Sarek, Spock's father. And so that annoyed a lot of people because that episode is seen as one of the best. But on the Internet Movie Database, it's ranked as the 13th best. So someone's someone's lying here. Well, wait. Sorry, I've got it. I've got it the wrong way around. Who Mourns for Odanis is the first one. That's weird. City on the Edge of Forever. Sorry, third best. Third best. Okay.
Okay.
Do you remember the City on the Edge of Forever? It's one that jumped through the time portal and they go back in time and they let this woman die. So speaking of making sure that history continues or society continues, that's a
Oh,
great
okay.
link. Actually, it's with
Yeah.
Edith. I think it's Edith Keller, and it's played by the woman who married Michael Jackson, Elizabeth Taylor,
Okay. Yeah.
and she supposedly
So,
helps. She's fundamental in helping. Sorry, Joan Collins in stopping the Nazis. So if you let her die, then the Nazis don't get formed or something in America. I can't remember very
okay.
clearly, but if you let her live, then the Nazis take over the world.
Yeah, okay.
The
Wow.
society as we know it falls apart. Right. Second best
Right.
episode is Mirror Mirror, the evil versions, and then it's Balance of Terror. But anyway, that's TOS for you.
So, so where do you fall then? What was your favorite sort of standout episode this
My
season?
favorite episode is actually the fourth one, but I also don't like it for how it breaks canon. So
Okay.
those who get upset at me talking shit about nutrek, I hate one of these episodes that is actually one of my favorite episodes. So fuck you. How's that for ambiguity?
Makes sense.
It makes no
Okay.
sense because basically in TOS, do you remember? Come on, one of the most iconic, probably not one of the best, but one of the most iconic episodes is when Kirk powers up his hand punch and he starts whacking this lizard creature. Okay, we all know that a combined fist is better than two, so he's like smacking him and he's like, "Arr, arr,"
Oh yeah, of course.
right,
Yeah, of course.
right, and then but in the episode you find out that the Gorn are not the bad guys; they're the good guys, and they've been misunderstood, and we've judged them based on their appearance.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's a metaphor, isn't it, for how we treat others based on how they look. And
Yeah.
so it's now in this supposed prime timeline TV show that is compatible with TOS. They're just
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
intelligent raptors that will kill each other
I was
to
gonna
get over it,
say.
to fuck each
Yeah.
other over in order to defeat the bad guys, which is the Federation in their twisted, warped sense of thinking. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
fucking hate
Am
the
I right in thinking? Am I right in thinking that the Gorn weren't that big of a an enemy? They were just sort of like that thing in Star Trek, and there wasn't too much known about them. So they just now
right.
create this
So
new narrative.
So they just discovered them in the TOS
Yeah,
episode that I'm talking about. And then they're not really
yeah,
heard from ever again. But in DS9, they're mentioned a few times where basically they're just living peacefully alongside the Federation. They don't join the Federation, right?
yeah.
And now they're just all out. Like, it's just like Jurassic Park with spaceships, with the raptors.
Yeah, they're like predators or something,
Right.
from
And
like
they're really fearsome.
Alien vs.
But
Yeah,
it goes against the point of how they set up the Gorn to begin with. Because because they didn't know who they were, Kirk fights them hand to hand. And when you watch the later episodes, they impregnate you and make you go crazy. And it's like, damn, you're making Kirk out to be like a boss now, even bigger boss. Because if this is supposed to be tied in somehow, then he took him on, didn't get impregnated, he didn't die. It's so weird. But in terms of like tension and story, I really enjoyed it. Like the Enterprise, they see that ship and they're going to destroy it, and actually it's a
yeah,
trap, and it's like, oh shit, they sacrificed themselves, which I don't understand. Why would
yeah,
you sacrifice yourself in a culture where the strongest is the best, and you actually end up killing each other as children?
yeah,
Right? It's so weird. Um, but when the Enterprise is like, yeah, we got to win, and then the other ship comes in, it's like, oh fuck. And they've really got to think about how to get out of it. And then what I like is that in the next episode, they're repairing the ship, and I like the fact that they
yeah,
bothered to do the continuity. It isn't like a month later in terms of star dates in
yeah,
universe.
yeah.
So yeah, I do like it. I don't like Lon in that episode. But I do like the
Yeah,
way Pike takes control of the situation.
I do feel like the Gorn has just been made a bigger threat just to sort of incorporate her tragic backstory. So it's like, I've got a tragic
Yeah.
backstory attached to this new this race that's now a new thing. It's got a new origin and all this sort of thing.
Yes.
And she's just there, like, even in the situation, she's like, oh no, like she knows them because she survived it. Not many people survived, but I did. And you got to listen to me because I know how they think. And it's like, oh, just piss off,
The clicks and
piss
everything.
off. Yeah, it's like she knows. She knows more than everybody else.
Yeah.
It's like, just why?
And
Why?
again, somehow Spock will forget this in TOS. There's so much shit for Spock to forget. So they'd be like, well, let me analyze that, Captain Kirk. Oh, let me see about
Oh,
that. Let me check the
that
computer
reminds me of
records.
that reminds me of another episode as well, when he went to Spark. It's like him swapping, body swapping with
To Pring.
his girlfriend. Yeah, to
Yeah.
bring. That was quite interesting, quite comical, because you've got these two serious Vulcans who had like logic and stuff like that, and they just accidentally body swap, and they're just like, oh,
Yeah, that's new, and it's sort of filling out the Vulcan culture a little bit more. It's kind of fun, but I didn't. I mean, its intentions are fun, but I didn't find it funny or entertaining. I just found it quite boring, and the resolution where I think another Vulcan gets punched in the face or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
It's
It's
just
like
like,
it's Spock who occupies it to bring, and he punches the guy she was going to go see.
right. It's so weird. It just doesn't
Yeah,
work to me. It just doesn't. Again, it's another episode that doesn't work, but at the same time, it's trying to do something interesting. So this is why I can respect this season,
yeah,
this single season of Star Trek. And someone made the
mm,
point that because this is TOS, effectively prequel TOS, if any of the TV shows wanted to fill each episode with references, it's this series. Discovery has
yeah,
like tribbles running around the fucking starship, for example, and changelings, and it's just full of memberberries. But
yeah,
Strange New Worlds compared doesn't actually have that much going for it in terms of memberberries. It's actually trying to
yeah.
do certain things which I can respect.
I liked when I went into each episode, I didn't know what I was going to get. So it was different
Right.
formula every time. So I like that. I like that sense of not knowing there's going to be just a straightforward, a story going forward or formula of the actual show. It was just like everything was different.
Yeah.
So then you get a feel for it in the next few minutes at the intro. You'd be like, oh, okay, it's going to be that sort of episode. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like that's what separates it from everything else in nutrek.
Yeah.
So it
And
sets
again,
it apart. It sets it apart.
it's not as dark either.
Yeah,
Doesn't seem
that really
dystopian.
helps.
It actually does seem like, I mean, we've only got 5 minutes left, but I can see how they're trying to adapt it to TOS, and a lot of fans are
Mm,
upset that the bridge isn't canonically the same. They've
yeah,
updated
yeah,
it with the lights and stuff, and I don't like it. But at the same time, you've got to do something to make it appeal to new audiences. I think.
yeah. You couldn't
I
have it
think.
be the 70s version of the deck because it's gonna look ridiculous now. Looking at it, you're like, you can't really. They could have done it to a little bit of a better degree and modernized it a little bit while still keeping that interior the same. But
Yes,
it couldn't be dead on. It'd just be too much on the nose and too much jarring watching it.
possibly. I mean,
Because it
part of
was
me just
like
says,
that when
why even do it?
Cisco when they did that episode of Deep Space Nine. It was like that when they sort of imposed their own those
Yes.
characters in a Star
Yeah,
Trek
the trouble
episode.
with triples. No,
Mm,
no, it wasn't. Something else. But okay, yeah.
whatever it was. Yeah, it was like
Well,
that.
trials and
You're looking at it going,
tribulations.
okay, yeah, it was well done, but it was just kind of like, oh, look how weird it just looks in comparison to like Deep Space Nine. Then you've got this
Yeah.
Star Trek from the 70s. You're like,
Well, actually, it's from the 60s.
well, okay, sure,
So it makes it even more meaningful in a way that you're trying to adapt a 60s TV show to a 90s, which they did. And they did it 20 years ago with Enterprise. They went back to the original bridge and they gave us a
yeah,
CGI version of the TOS version of the Gorn as well.
yeah,
So I mean, it's 20. It's so weird, but Enterprise is 20 years ago, and yet it's really old. But it's not for us. Whereas when we were
yeah,
kids, 60s TV shows were really old in the 80s. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
But
absolutely,
Enterprise, was shot in 4K anyway, so it's got these it's got these traits of a modern production process, CGI shapes, 4K resolution, all that jazz. Um,
yeah.
what was I going to say? So part of me is sort of like they should have kept the original bridge, but the other part of me is like, well, maybe not, and just admit it's not. It's not. It's an alternate universe to the Prime timeline. It just has to be. There's just so
Yeah.
many things. Just admit it. I just want someone, like Alex Kurzman or Akiva Goldsman to say, you know what, everything we've done is not Prime timeline, but it doesn't matter. And you just like get loads of respect from the original fans who want the Prime timeline protected and not
Well, I feel
not
like
taken over
it
with.
probably should be because it's connected with friggin' Discovery, so you assume that it wasn't, part of that prime timeline. So,
Right, but they're rewriting the Prime timeline to insert all of what they want to talk about and use the legacy
yeah,
characters to sort of attract us to watching it, which is Strange New World, sort of like a microcosm of that. You've got Pike and Spock, and yet they want to introduce Lan and uh, the other characters that I can't remember, Hemmer, who I don't have a problem with, but they you can't have your cake. What's that phrase? You can't have your cake and eat it.
yeah,
Just say it's not prime canon, alternate canon, and then you can
yeah,
do whatever you want as well. It's just a win-win-win, as Michael
yeah,
Scott
yeah.
would say. We've talked about favorite episodes, haven't we?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Who's your favorite character?
It's got to be a mix of either like I like Pike or Spock. I feel like they both do a good job. I think the guy who plays Spock does a good job at sort of having the same vibe and sort of feelings as what Leonard Nimoy did to Spock. Pike because he just seems like that sort of alpha male, typical sort of, confident sort of character where he's like good looking, he can charm the ladies, he knows what to do in every situation pretty much. Um, yeah, I, I like that as about the show as well. Like they're not afraid to have a strong lead character in a guy as well. It's refreshing, especially in today's environment, to have that, which is rare now without making your lead male look like an idiot in some manner.
Yeah, but I think, well, obviously they have to. They've got to make the lead white male because of the
Yeah,
history of the show. Uh,
yeah,
so I'm not going to
yeah,
give him any credit for that because I find that when I watch the show, I never saw a man and a woman at the front consoles. It's always two women, one on ops and one driving the ship.
yeah,
And it's like, oh, this is
yeah.
suspect. Like nearly everybody else on the bridge is always a woman, always, nearly, and none of them are ever
Yeah,
in
I did.
front of Pike. It's like,
Yeah,
sneaky.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't like Ortegas kind of does my head in as well a little bit. In the fact that she's so like she's meant to be this ace pilot or this ace navigator that can just maneuver the ship in any way she can. It's like there's none of them struggle. None of these female characters struggle with anything,
Yeah,
and it's just like, come on, guys! Like it's so on the nose sometimes with some of the things.
and yet, if you wanted to, I mean, people say it's woke, and I kind of do believe it's a little bit woke. But you've just pointed out a difference between the female characters and Pike. What makes Pike so much better is that he does struggle. He's not a
Mm,
perfect captain, and he's having these doubts, and yet the female characters don't at all.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah. They
Lon,
just have
maybe.
tragic. They just have tragic backstories.
Yeah.
Even with Lana, it's just that she can do everything, but she's just got a tragic backstory, which makes it even better because when she overcomes these things, it's better.
I
And it's
actually
like
like. Go on. Sorry, I thought you finished.
they're gone.
No,
Yeah,
go
no,
on.
go on.
You go on.
That was the one. That was my thought. That was my thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. I
that was
actually
it.
like Ortegas because one, she's incredibly hot, and two, she doesn't have a tragic backstory. In fact, you don't know anything about her because no episode is focused on her yet, which is really weird because she's one of the main cast, and yet she's got nothing.
Yeah.
But I don't like the way she speaks. We can go back to the dialogue, but she said to some guy in the corridor, "Whatever tweaks your freak, man." And it's like this is just 21st century dialogue.
Yeah.
It takes me out of it so much, and you know why?
Yeah.
Because all the fucking writers are CW writers.
Oh, they.
Yeah, when I did my episode reviews, I made sure to research who the writers were, and they've all done CW stuff. And Akiva Goldsman, who's in charge of he's like the lead writer or the producer. He's the guy who wrote like Batman and Robin.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's his filmography.
Yeah.
Let me have a look here. Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, Lost in Space, I, Robot, Da Vinci Code, I Am Legend. Those are the things. Oh, Transformers, The Last Night. He's done that as well. There's all
Okay.
sorts of like shit movies that he's done, and how he gets to be in
Yeah.
charge of Star Trek, I don't know. But there we are.
What about you? What's your favorite character?
My favorite character is actually Hemmer. So I was kind of annoyed that they got
Okay.
rid of him. But you have to acknowledge that they do have to get rid of him somehow because Scotty becomes the engineer. I didn't like how he was impregnated and he sacrificed himself for that. I think he's such a great character. They should have just let him transfer away and kill Larn. But did you know
Yeah.
that did you know that his species of Andorian is actually a reference to Enterprise?
Was it?
Yeah, because Andorians are blue, right? And they've got the
Hmm.
little things on their head. But in Enterprise, they create a subspecies of Andorians who live under the ice planet, and they're blind. And so he's a
Okay.
reference to to Enterprise,
Okay.
which I actually liked. And he's just a nice guy all round, and he tutors Uhura, but then they kill him, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's not fair.
Yeah. They could
And
have
the
kept him
actor
around for
playing,
like season two. Yeah. They could have kept
sorry,
him
what?
around.
Yeah,
They
and
could
the
have
actor
kept him around
playing,
season two.
and the actor playing Hemmer is actually blind as well.
How is he?
Yeah, so for reals.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah,
Wow.
there's like a cute reference, and then there's also giving that guy work as a blind character because
Yeah.
he is blind, which
Oh,
which I kind of liked. But other than that, I'm not really interested in any of the other characters because even the legacy ones because I know they're not doing them properly. See, you see how I
okay.
oscillate between liking it and disliking it.
It's
If
like my
they
favorite show, but I don't like any of the characters. Christ.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. I'm interested to see how it pans out. I mean, Pike only had one episode for Christ's sake, so I'm kind of interested to see obviously how he develops and will he or won't he get put in the wheelchair? Scotty, I don't think is in season 2. I think they've got another engineer. It's like maybe they'll
Okay.
rinse through 3 or 4 different engineers to establish that the ship has had a history of engineers, and then it ends with Scotty's hand at the controls.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because in Star Trek, Captain Kirk was not the first to command the ship, and neither was Pike. There was another captain
Yeah.
called Robert April, and it was like an in joke, but it was also to suggest that the ship was not brand new ever. It was already like 20 years old by the time we jump on board, with them in the TV
Okay.
show. So the Black Admiral that they meet, I think, is Robert April. If I've got it right, they meet the Black Admiral, and he is supposed to be the original captain,
Okay.
right? But that's also upset a lot of fans because Robert April was never black in the animated TV show. He was actually white, so they race swapped him. And people are like,
Okay.
why race swap him? And other people say, well, why not? Who cares? It's just a TV show from the animated, and it's just an animated TV show. But as Robert Meyer Burnett pointed out, who is sort of like so much more knowledgeable about TOS, there are already black admirals featured in TOS. So why don't you just use that admiral? Why do you have to race swap the white one? It's weird because they already exist. Black ones already exist, and they're actually in the TV. They're actually in the TOS TV show as live characters. Sorry. So why do that? And it's like, okay, is that because they don't understand the history of Star Trek? They don't know. They're trying to do an interesting callback, but could they be more clever with it? That they don't. To me, there's interesting questions there on a production standpoint. Like, why didn't you do it that way? Why did you have to race swap one of them? And other people say, "Oh, I'm not interested. The character was never. I've never watched TAS, so fuck it. Stop moaning. Stop saying there's a political agenda there." Yeah, that's it.
Cool.
Yeah, but it lends credence to the idea that Strange New Worlds is woke, and I don't actually think it is woke to the same degree as Discovery, but I do think they are trying to elevate certain interpretations.
There are certain aspects, but I didn't get a feel of that. I didn't get a feel of any wokeness within the show that I was watching. It wasn't like jarring or hitting me in the face like some of the shows out there do. Like I didn't get any sense of that really, apart from like Lan's character and then a little bit with Ortega doing, the way she speaks and stuff like that. Wasn't anything sort of really, there.
They are a little bit masculine, which I don't think they should be. Una, by the way, who you barely fucking see in this season, which is really weird because she's supposed to be the second. She's supposed to be the Riker of the Enterprise, right?
Oh, yeah.
But it seems more like Spock is, but he's just the science officer. He's not promoted yet to first officer. It's really weird that she barely features in these episodes as a main character. And you forget, I forgot her name, I forgot her first name, and I forgot that she was on the show sometimes because she just wasn't present.
That's number one, isn't it?
Yeah, number one.
Yeah.
So it's so weird. And then what they did to Uhura, I think, is terrible. If you go back and look at classic Uhura, she's a beautiful woman with beautiful hair, and they give you this short, podgy, shaven head woman. It's like, why did you do that? You've sort of made her sort of you've given her masculine traits as well because she looks so hench, and it's a shame.
Yeah.
It's like if you want to be, I mean, there's being woke and giving women male characteristics. And when we get into Lower Decks, Mariner is just a piece of shit. If it was a guy, he would be interpreted as, a Chad, a piece of shit, disrespectful, all these things. But Mariner isn't because she's a woman, but she's got the masculine traits. Whereas with Uhura, you've ruined her natural feminine beauty. You didn't do it in the J.J. Abrams verse. You had the woman from Guardians of the Galaxy. I can't remember her name, but you had her, and it was like that continues the lineage of introducing a beautiful black woman on screen in a pivotal role, and then you've got this little frumpy dumpy with no hair. It's like, why did you do that? What's wrong with casting a Nubian princess, to quote the words of Renton from Trainspotting?
I suppose you could just be like, well, she's growing into that sort of that character.
Adam, that's so deep because she's got to grow her hair at the same time, and that's so layered. Oh, Adam, I didn't see that. That's so cool. I'm definitely gonna watch it.
Watch it.
It's a metaphor. Growing her hair. I'm not taking the piss out of you. I'm taking the piss out of the show. Show is, if you think about it as subtext. No, I fucking hate it. They should have got a more beautiful woman to play her. A more feminine woman to play her.
Oh, I thought she looks all right.
No, no, that's why I corrected myself. I think she should be more feminine.
Okay, okay. Right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay. I'm gonna edit that out. I'll get demonetized for being racist or some shit.
God, you're like slagging her off.
Yeah. I'm not slagging. I'm slagging off the character, not the actor.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have anything else to share about Strange New Worlds? Clearly, you're gonna watch season 2. I am as well. There's enough there for me.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping. Yeah, I'm hoping it's good. I'm hoping they don't have like. I hope they continue each episode being different and its own thing. I hope they don't just have a one big narrative and then they just all go off on an adventure
Yeah.
somewhere. I hope that because I saw one scene where I think they went down to a planet and I think Kirk was pissing around with like a revolving door, and I was
Yeah.
like, I really hope they don't butcher this. I really hope they don't ruin
They
it
they
because
already have
it's
Adam.
had such a good start.
Just roll with
Don't
it.
don't.
Just roll with it. Although I'll tell you something, there is some serialization because there are some things that characters do between episodes, sort of like how
Hmm.
DS9 did it. For example, Mbenga's daughter, who, by the way, we haven't even talked about. Mbenga is a really cool character, and he's actually in TOS.
Oh,
They've
the
just,
doctor.
yeah, they've lifted him from
Yeah.
TOS and made him the chief medical officer of
Okay.
the Enterprise. But maybe McCoy comes in and he gets shifted to another position. I don't know. But I liked the idea that he's keeping. I kind of liked it, the idea of his daughter being put inside the transporter, right? But
I was gonna ask you about that as well.
it doesn't work inside again the canon of the show, of the canon of the franchise.
Yeah.
You can't keep someone in permanent stasis inside a transporter. The particles just disperse after like 30 or 40 seconds, and there's been entire
Yeah.
episodes based around this. So some people are saying, why don't you just put her in the fucking freezer? Like, but then you wouldn't be able to have her coming out. You couldn't keep thawing her, freezing her, thawing her, freezing her. It's really weird. And then
Yeah.
the way they get rid of her was not
Mm.
interesting whatsoever. Oh, the magic nebula person will just look after her. How do you know? Don't care. Let's just get rid of this interesting aspect to Mbenga.
Yeah.
So weird. I thought they would have played with it for longer. Maybe take it into 3 seasons. You just know there's a child stuck in the medical transporter who should be
Yeah, it was a
frozen.
very odd thing. I was going to ask you about that because I didn't know the logistics or like the lore of that. I didn't know if that was even possible or if it was even a thing they could do.
Right.
So I was kind of like, oh, okay then. And then, yeah, at the end of the episode, they sort of like quickly wrapped it up with like, oh, magic cloud thing has
Right.
helped little girl, and then they've just floated off, and then all of a sudden she's come back because time works differently. He can then be resolved as a character, and like everything's okay. You don't have to feel guilty or worry about anything. So you can just go about your life now and be a normal, restored character. You don't have to have any sort of
Right.
tragic backstory or any scarring from this. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah. It's so
So the
weird.
massive, the massive, the massive weight of that decision to let your daughter go, and it doesn't matter. There's no weight to it anymore. So you're okay.
Well, you know what that is. That's a metaphor basically for how black men in America abandon their children. And that's why the black community is in fucking omni shambles in terms of the affairs. Okay? That's what the show is saying. That's the subtext, Adam. Just he just goes, yeah, okay, whatever. Some magic solution will allow my child to grow up. That's what the show is saying. That's how black men think.
Yeah, it's that is it, exactly.
Oh shit. Yeah, it was just bullshit. And again,
Yeah.
they set something up that could have been interesting, even though it was canon breaking, and then they
Mm.
just get rid of it after what, 8 episodes, 7 episodes? Yeah, 8 episodes. At
Yeah,
least you can get rid of.
it's a very odd decision. Very odd decision.
Yeah. What do you think about Nurse Chapel, by the way?
It's hot.
You know how to
Now,
sexualize these
um,
characters, Adam, especially when they're in cat suits that are tight fitting. How dare you, you chauvinistic pig?
I know.
You've got a
Now,
girlfriend. Why are you cheating on her by pointing out her beauty and she's hot? How dare you? There's
I
better
know.
adjectives out there,
No,
Adam. You
I
could
know.
have said she's
Sorry.
intelligent, resourceful, clever. You didn't. You
Yeah,
just
she's
looked
all
at
of
her
us.
and assessed her on her
I
looks.
know. What a terrible thing to do.
What
What
such
a characteristics.
toxic masculinity you're expressing on my
Exactly.
podcast.
How dare I do such a thing?
I'm going to tell your girlfriend. Anyway, go on. You're cheating on her.
Um, I see that she's having this thing with Spock. I guess there's an underlying sort of will they won't they thing with her and Spock, even though Spock's with T'Pring, and then she's got a
Well,
thing about commitment issues and stuff. And I'm
at the
like,
time of
oh,
TOS, T'Pringa's not on the scene because they broke up,
yeah,
and
yeah,
there's this sort of feeling that you get from Nurse Chapel that she wants to bang Spock. She wants him,
yeah,
right? But this
yeah,
show is pushing it to the front immediately.
yeah.
There was an episode, I think it was episode 5, where they talk about her attraction to Spock.
Okay,
And do you remember she was dating a guy in the
yeah.
show? And then what did he do? Did he get rid of her? Did she break up with
No,
him
I
or
think
did he
she
break
just
up with her?
no. She broke up with him. She's like, she's just bored. She was just like, oh, and she's scared of commitment. I get the character. She doesn't want to commit to
Right.
any one person. So she's very, yeah, she doesn't like relationships in that sort of way for some reason. I don't know the full ins and outs of why she doesn't want to commit or she's
Right.
afraid of commitment. But I think she likes, well, she obviously is attracted to Spock, and I think she likes the idea of being with Spock. I don't know why they can't just be friends and have that sort of platonic sort of relationship and friendship because there's nothing wrong with that. Um, you know, I don't understand why it has to be like they're in love or she's like majorly attracted to him. It could just be two people who are friends and
Yeah.
But I suppose it's more interesting for the audience if there is a sort of that sort of narrative within this season.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So just moving on to the second season, you've seen the trailer and you don't like the way
Mm.
they treated Kirk, I'm guessing, with the revolving door joke, right?
Yeah,
I read an article where it explains basically Kirk's line when he says, "I'm from outer space." That's supposed to be a joke, right? But in Star Trek 4,
yeah,
the woman who's the whale biologist, she says, "Are you from outer space?" He's like, "I'm not from outer space. I just work in outer space." He's from
yeah.
Iowa, whatever it is.
Mm.
And people are pointing out, or so the writer of this article pointed out that that joke is for normies. So while all the hardcore fans are getting annoyed by the fact that he says I'm from outer space and he's not from outer space, the joke works for normies who don't know the TV show had movies
Yeah,
made about it first. So it's like, okay, well, this is what we're doing with this, with probably Strange New Worlds overall, is just like a refresher or an introduction to the Star Trek universe, and they can claim some space before watching TOS. They can leave their mark
yeah.
on it.
It also seems like with that trailer and that sort of thing, it's like Kirk's now going to be a standard run-of-the-mill character and a long-term cast
Yeah,
member. So I thought he was just going to be in that episode and maybe a couple of episodes, and that would have been it. That's what it should have been. If anything, if he had to be there, I don't think he should be a permanent cast member
let me.
because it doesn't fit.
Yeah, I'm just checking out the character now. His filmography. Let's see if they got any episodes. Uh, let's see. Let's see if Paul Weasley is in. He looks like an older version of the who's that prick? That Canadian singer, the young guy. Come on, help me out.
Canadian
Justin
young
Bieber.
guy prick.
Justin Bieber. There you go.
Oh my God.
It looks like him. Here we go. So, Strange New Worlds. So far, he's in one episode, season 2. Let's have a look here. Anson Mount. No, he doesn't say how many episodes he's in.
Okay.
Because I feel like if they're going to have lots of appearances of him in the show, then you kind of are undermining Pike.
Well, yeah, yeah.
And it should be the Pike show.
Oh, yeah.
Just looking at the writers, they've only got the writers acknowledged on the Wikipedia. Basically, nearly all of the writers from season 1 are here, except for a couple. But they've got Kirsten Beyer writing episode 4, and she is the writer of all the Star Trek Voyager continuation novels, apart from the first 2 or 3, which were Christy Golden. And
Okay.
she also is a writer for Discovery. And she tried to pitch episodes on Voyager itself. And the producer in charge, Jerry Taylor, said, we're not interested. And somehow she became the Voyager writer. And then through that, she became a Discovery writer. And she's fucking gash. I fucking hate her writing. She's not a good writer. In the books, do you remember Q's son? Q has a son. In one of the books, spoilers coming ahead, basically Q sacrifices himself to save Janeway because she dies in the novels.
Yeah.
It's so, and again, the consequences are all galactic stuff again, galactic wide, just like in Discovery. So you can probably see how they get this idea. It's just bullshit. I've never read those books. I don't want to, and I don't think she's a very good writer. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to this. Again, the rest of them are just CW writers for the most part. And a lot of them don't have experience. When you look on their Internet Movie Database, a lot of them actually haven't written a lot. And then they're given Star Trek. And it's so weird that this is supposed to be prestige TV. And yet you've got immature writers. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I just mean that they're not probably as developed as other seasoned writers.
Well, if that's the case, I'm surprised that some of the episodes in season 1 are actually as good as they are then, really, if that's the case. Well, it's true, though. If you're saying that they're not that seasoned veterans, then it's like, wow, okay, that's pretty good then. Maybe it's like a fresh take on it. Maybe it is a healthy thing. Maybe it's like if you've got writers who are not jaded or overworked, maybe you get a bit more better material. And that's saying a lot because, like you said, as soon as you said the CW writers, I was like, oh, cringy a little bit taken aback because I'm like, oh, I know how bad some of those shows are, but it's sort of you wouldn't get that feel or that taste by watching Strange New Worlds. I didn't get any of that sense that because CW shows are typically bad for like their drama and their sort of teen angst, whereas there's not much of it in Strange New Worlds. There are hints of it in some of the characters, but it's not overly overbearing.
Okay. Okay, but I don't feel they're writing in the style of how those characters would have spoken. Then they haven't got the dialogue right. Like I said, it's period specific.
Dialogue is too up to date. It's too modern era. Yeah.
Yes. One of the writers is called Robin Wasserman, and she is 44. And when you go on her Wikipedia page, all she's ever written are novels for teenagers.
Okay.
Like for example, The 7 Deadly Sins from Simon and Schuster features 7 morally bankrupt teenagers in a small California town. Each novel revolves around one of the sins and each character's transgressions specific to that sin. That's okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just all they've written. This particular person is just teen drama, and then they get Star Trek. I'm not saying she can't write for anything else, but that's the experience. And then she's jumped on board, and I'm like, eh. And she wrote the Spock Amok episode, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Which would seem perfect for her.
It could be a money thing as well, so it's cheaper to get these younger, less experienced writers in. It's probably a budgetary thing as well.
Yeah, possibly. I like the fact that you're more positive interpreting why these writers are on the show, whereas I'm not. Speaking of writers, a lot of the writers that I'm seeing that are striking are actually bad. They're bad writers, and maybe it's because of my feed and I'm doing Star Trek stuff. But you see Star Trek writers posting like the strikes and stuff, and it's like, guys, I mean, nothing against you personally as a person, but your writing is bad. You should not be front and center of the strike because at the moment there's a lot of shit TV. And it's because of the writing. People understand it's not the production values. It's not the CGI anymore.
Yeah.
It's not the acting.
Yeah.
It's actually the writing. And because of this political left-wing ideology that is present in Hollywood, you do not have the sympathy of the audiences. And some people are already saying it feels like these TV shows are written with chat GPT already. And so what benefit are you? I think you need good writers to stand up and be more vocal and put themselves present on social media to talk about these things. So on my Twitter account for Star Trek, I'm having a go at the writers saying you probably shouldn't, tweet and get support. But on my main account, I'm much more supportive of the general issues surrounding this strike and that writers should get paid. But at the same time, I don't believe that bad writers should be supported by a union. That's one of the problems with a union. The union will carry bad writers or bad workers.
Yeah.
And they just happen to be Star Trek writers.
I don't think it's just Star Trek. I think Disney and Marvel have a problem with that as well.
Yeah. I mean, my forte is Star Trek, but yeah, Star Wars and Marvel. I mean, I'm not interested. Sorry to go off topic, but I'm not interested in any Marvel movie at the moment. Not even the James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm just not interested.
Yeah,
and it's sad, really.
I'm not. Like, Marvel Cinematic Universe has been completely stale and off to me. I haven't been even interested in going to watch it. To the point where it used to be an event. Going to see a Marvel film used to be an event, and now it's like I'm not bothered. I won't go out my way to see it. Like I say, the only one that I did recently, and I bought tickets. I saw Guardians. I thought it was okay. I thought it was all right. It's the best as of recent memory because everything around it has been so shitty that in comparison, it just looks like steps beyond what anything's put out there at the moment.
But you're saying you've watched Guardians 3?
Yeah, I've watched it, yeah.
Okay, right.
We can save that for another time when you've seen it and stuff like that. But overall, though, I did think it was a decent movie. But because I'm so, messed around with the rest of the Marvel films, what they've been, it's probably not hard to be good or look good in comparison to those things that are really shitty out there at the moment. Because every film that's come out after the recent Spider-Man film has been terrible.
Right. Yeah. Spider-Man was the last decent movie.
Yeah, that's the last decent one. And this recent Guardians one is good, but then it's good in comparison to everything that's shit around it. And that's the problem. But I still had a good time with it, and I still liked it.
For sure. It's interesting at the same time that you've got them protesting, and we know which franchises are suffering. But there are a ton of good writers that are sort of getting drowned out by the fact that there's so much sludge that we could watch on TV. For All Mankind is really good, and I've not heard anything from that particular Star Trek writer who's writing that TV show, or even The Orville. I haven't heard anything from them. It's a shame, really, because they're the ones who you can say, yeah, the WGA are justified in what the things that they're proposing in terms of residuals and whatnot, and the Star Trek writers should just take a back seat. Just pick it. Don't advertise yourself on Twitter because you don't have the public support.